I am joined with Brian Campbell. First of all, one of my favorite podcasters and radio personalities, and just personalities in general, and not only boxing in the world. BC, welcome. How you doing, brother?
Hey, Johnny boy over here. It's great to actually be over here on your show. Congratulations on the launch of a new movement. And I don't just mean the new channel, but, PSA. I need a pick me up. It's Johnny Sig must have just woken up on the West Coast. Let me check it out right now. So you're uplifting us. Okay. Well, that's what I'm saying.
I got to thank you for that, because it's crazy, because I get inboxes from random people on Twitter. It goes down to the DMs. We know about that, BC. It goes down to the DMs.
Oh, yeah.
So I get on Twitter, I get on Instagram, and literally I'll look at the person's profile, and it's like 65 to 70-year-old women, for the most part, saying, wash your motherfucking hands, Johnny boy. Clean them motherfuckers. I'm like, what have I done here? And so people are like, you got to get shirts made. This is blowing up. It's crazy. But I appreciate that. And you know what, man? I appreciate you and your boy, Rafe Bartholomew, who I call the lethal weapon of podcasters. You are Riggs and Murtaugh. Let's face facts, guys. We all love the State of Combat, Inside the Ropes, and now Morning Combat. Can you tell me what's going on with you nowadays, BC? What's the show moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm blessed, and I've been lucky, as you mentioned, to build such a rapport and chemistry on air with my best friend in box, Rafe Bartholomew, whether it was going back to Grantland ESPN days and the Ropes podcast in 2015. So we had a good thing going with the State of Combat podcast on CBS Sports, but all good things sometimes can come to an end and evolve to even bigger things. So, I started a project with Luke Thomas called Morning Combat that Showtime was behind. As I always say, they are the label that pays me. And, it blew up to such great success talking boxing, MMA, that, CBS Sports, my employer, came on board and said, let's pick up Luke's contract. Let's blow this thing up and put it on YouTube every single day. Good news is that the guys I was already working with, UFC Hall of Famer Sugar Rashad Evans, my boy Rafe Bartholomew, they're allowed to come along for the ride, in some spin-off fun. So everybody gets to win in the end. Hopefully the listeners like everything we're putting out there. But at the end of the day, Johnny, when there's those corny sayings, when you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. Hey. And that's certainly true. I'm beyond blessed, but not just beyond blessed to be able to work in the fight game for a living. And I had a 4-year run where I actually covered the WWE and was going to WrestleMania. I mean, I've done some amazing stuff. I actually get paid by Showtime and CBS right now to tell dirty jokes and react to fights, not in a studio format. Well, that counterpunch by Charlo was really something, but to actually be I think that guy's kind of washed right now. There was a point in time where I was I got my on-air persona and I got my text my buddies persona. To be able to push that together and crack a beer on camera once in a while, I can't believe we're here. 2020 is wild, but it's put me in a pretty good spot.
It has been an absolute wild ride in 2020. And what's funny is I'll have your show on in the background when I'm cleaning my house, and my stepdaughter will come out and she hears Dwyer, and she'll be she hears his voice and she goes, make that money, player. She's 11. She loves Dwyer, right? So I want to talk to you about Dwyer. First of all, you guys introduced me to him in terms of the listening party that is the sensation of the internet and the boxing community, because nobody has a delivery quite like Dwyer. Now, I have my own Dwyer in my life. His name is Don West. Shop at Home Collectibles. I don't know if you remember that.
Love that guy.
I'm trying
from
to get him on my
Wrestling.
show.
Impact Wrestling for a while too. Yeah.
I am trying to get him on my show. He is so elusive. I can't get him. And I
all right, we got to get him. We got to get him, because how many times I would come home at night in 99 and you'd be high and you'd be watching TV, flipping through the channels. You'd be like, this is the absolute last Mark McGuire rookie card available in this country. Those guys were the best,
PSA 10. Sosa. Who be dialing? This guy, I've had, not to brag or anything, but I've had some people on the show recently. I cannot get Don West. I've been hitting him up. I'm stalking him. I took it to stalker mode 10. I'm I'm going to get you, Don. And I know what you felt with your frustration trying to get the wire. And I remember I was telling my girlfriend, it was the wire alert. I was I think they're going to get him. I think they're getting close. I think BC
This was a real thing. Like, I wasn't kidding. Behind the scenes, I was floating him emails. He was like, maybe, oh, I'm really busy. I got a trial. Then we didn't hear from him forever. So I'm like, oh, he found out that we're not just fans. We're clients in like the make fun of him club, which is, look, it's 50-50. He's a freaking genius guy. He's this random
really
lawyer in San Francisco area who loves boxing as much as we do, loves to bet on it, but has this delivery. And I, when I finally got him on, I straight up asked him, I'm like, dude, I hear Vince Scully, and it turns out it's a little bit more of who's that announcer? John Miller, a little bit more John Miller, Major League Baseball. Either way, it's like this classically delivered guy in terms of his voice, but coming out of the package of this guy who says the most random stuff. But here's the genius of it, Johnny, and I know you know this already. Every single random ridiculous thing he says, the more you bite on it, you're like, wait, maybe I'm the crazy one. Maybe he's the genius. And that's, that's the element of a master right there, when he can make you question.
There's a flip side to the coin. I mean, he's looked at, first of all, a lot of guys, many guys,
a lot of guys. Yes.
He's looked at a whole lot of guys, and he does break down brilliant points. I put a lot of podcasts on. I listen to a lot of podcasts in the background of my house at the Signorella household. And sometimes my girlfriend will be listening and she'll be like, Dwyer's not that, he's very intelligent. He's not stupid at all. Like, he's got very logical points, but it's his delivery that makes it trademark, when he's talking. Oh, I love it. The slow,
and he's humble. When I talked to him, I was waiting for something to come out. The real man behind it. Is this an act? And it turns out he's just this humble guy, believes in his own shtick, makes probably some coin off YouTube for it. He's investing in Bitcoin. I don't know how deep you go in the Dwyer library, right? We got the Dwyer crime blog. We got the Dwyer Bitcoin investment blog going. I mean, the guy's a, Renaissance man.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So speaking about love affairs with boxing. All right, BC, if you don't mind, please tell me, when did your start begin with your obsession and passion for boxing?
Great question. I was born in 78, so I'm old and washed now. But look, I came of age when the Rocky movies were hitting HBO and, still coming out in the theaters. So I, like anybody else my age, dude, the Rocky movies is like 98% of the reason why I got into boxing, right? And I was allowed to watch movies way too early that were rated R, because it didn't have PG-13 back then. Shout out to the boobs though in 16 Candles. That was somehow a PG movie. Good Lord.
Hell yeah.
But that really theatrically just gets the blood going. I did have a grandfather in Pennsylvania who only watched boxing and no other sports. So there's a lot of time sitting on the floor watching him yell at the screen while I'm playing with toys. But it really was the Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler 1987 super fight. That was the first time I hadn't turned 9 yet, that I got the taste of what the big fight feeling is like. And so I had a dad who's a fireman, was not a sports fan almost ever, except for like once every 4 or 5 years. It could be a Super Bowl, it could be an Olympics, or it could be a big fight. Something at work would be so popular, right? Like a sporting event would cross over that he'd come home and be like, we're getting it. We got to get it, right? And he came home and said, we're going over the grandparents and we're buying this on pay-per-view and we're bringing 20, 30 people over. And I remember, I think that fight was on a weeknight. I think it was like a Monday night. And I remember just anticipation, watching it, being sort of indoctrinated into the idea of who are winning these 3-minute sort of stanzas, to steal a line from Mo Ronaldo. And of course, the controversy or the disputed nature of who won, and watching grown men argue about it afterwards. And, I was a big WWF fan at that time. So I was into the this guy's going to fight this guy. I always say I was the Don King of schoolyard fights. I was always wondering, what if this guy fought this guy? And I'd always be, hey, do you hear there's going to be a fight going to break out? Like, I'd be the first guy running over there. There's just something about that anticipation. I've never been a fight guy myself in personal life. So maybe it's just looking up to these warriors that, even guys I went to school with, like the badasses, you looked up to those guys. They didn't take crap from anybody. And that just bled right into that beautiful early 90s period where heavyweights were centerpiece. I mean, it's, the second greatest era ever. Bo, Holyfield, Moore, Foreman, Lennox Lewis, Mike Tyson. I mean, there's the Holyfield shirt right there. So that's a time when I got the cable box, where I ended up getting the illegal cable box a few years later, which you can watch everything on pay-per-view. But that's the time where you couldn't watch it. But the old trick was you take a nickel, you tape it to the power button on your cable box, and you could get a squiggly lined version. So you're getting the audio. So it was my equivalent of sitting by the radio for like schmelling Joe Louis 2, right? And the weight of a nation is on my shoulders. That was me for like Foreman versus Holyfield and being like, oh my God. And I think I can see, is that a boob or is that just George's gut? What is that? And, and then being like, I got to go now to Sports Center. And I can't harp enough on this comment because this is where we think boxing once was something in like 72 or 1956. No, 1991, you turn on ESPN Sports Center after a big fight. It's Charlie Steiner, it's Al Bernstein, and they're going a half hour from Vegas. And that's the only thing that matters at that moment. Not the NBA playoffs, not the NFL, not nothing. And, those were the times where, this sport was everything to me. And, I dabbled in Oscar De La Hoya's launch, Roy Jones Jr. and Nassim Hamed. Then I kind of fell away from the sport for a few years. But the best thing that ever happened to me as a boxing fan, along with gaining an illegal cable box, which is how you afford to stay in the game as a boxing fan, is picking up the gloves. Okay. Everybody always thinks we're keyboard warriors, Johnny, right? We couldn't punch our way out of a paper bag. I still can't, but I put on the gloves. I've sparred. I've done mini training, no amateur fights. No, I'm a tough guy, controlled sparring with people you trust, but I got knocked down. I got punch drunk. I got the feel. I got the respect. And what that did, and this was around 2003-04 area, what that did was for the first time in my life, I stopped watching fights just to see who's more of a badass, just to see who's going to get the big knockout, just to see if Tyson's going to bite somebody's, body off. I watched it for the science. And then that's the first time I'm like, oh, sweet science. I get it. That's what it is. And there was a love affair and an addiction the next few years where I didn't go out on Saturday nights. I watched every single friggin' fight on that illegal cable box. And I remember my roommates being like, dude, this is our prime bar years. What are you doing, dude? You're watching Cotto, Ricardo Torres. I'm like, you damn right I am. And it's awesome. And one time my roommate said to me, dude, what are you actually doing? What are you preparing for? Like, are you going to, and I remember telling him at the time, I think I was working in a factory. I was, whatever, a 24-year-old blowhard. And I'm like, I don't know, man, but I can't stop. I can't stop this feeling. And, thank God that happened. And thank God that it was always about the passion for me, because even though I'm insanely blessed to get the opportunities professionally I do now, I'm just happy I have people in my life I can talk to fights about. Like, that's what it's all about for me. This fight game is bizarre, ridiculous, broken, crooked, amazing, beautiful. And the world got a lot smaller when Twitter and Facebook came out. And I just love that you and I, who haven't even met each other, I haven't gone tip to tip, as we say, with the brother, yet I feel like we are brothers. And that's a beautiful thing right there.
At least someone got the score right here, BC. That's what I'm talking about, bro. Someone got the score right. No, here's what's up. I mean, real quick about illegal cable boxes. Back in the day, I had the old school one. I don't know if you guys had this. I'm originally from New Jersey. I live in Vegas now, where you plug it into your television and there's a bunch of buttons. You have to click like different levels to the, I guess the whole server to the television. And if you click 3 buttons at once, sometimes you get the Playboy channel.
Yo, been there, yeah.
You didn't have that one, huh?
I didn't have the 3-button hookup. I had the tape, the nickel, and I could kind of make out what I'm seeing,
So if you click the 3 buttons, it would say like 2, 3, 4, 5, like numerical. And then if you click like a certain code at the same time, you get Playboy for like 10 minutes. And man, that's the best.
All I needed. I don't need the other 8 minutes. What's going on here, right?
You got your 10 minutes, you're ready to go. And the other thing we used to do with the scrambler when we had the illegal cable box is, did you ever try this one? Everyone had antidotes to fix it. If it got zapped, oh, we got zapped. Put it in the freezer. So
wow. Is that like blowing on the Nintendo game? I didn't learn that one. Yeah.
It's like one of those type of things. Exactly what it is. So we put it in the freezer and then come back and you catch like, the second half of the Lennox Lewis fight or whatever. And you're like, all right, at least we got it, because nobody wanted to. I mean, they were well money worth fights. I mean, they were worth my money. You spoke about the early 90s. Look at Burt Cooper. Look at guys like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Ray
Mercer, brother. Ray Mercer.
At the same time we said it. Oh my goodness, dude.
By the way, Ray Mercer, I know he ended up fighting Vlad and he lost when he was older. Prime Ray Mercer I think would have beaten both Klitschko. I mean, I love the secondary and third tier 90s heavyweights. They were the last group who grew up with a boxing gym on every corner, grew up with gym wars, having to fight their way out before this modern era of supersized failed athletes. No disrespect, obviously, but you know what I'm going with that.
Absolutely. And we said Ray Mercer at the same time. Like these guys, before this new wave of heavyweights we have with Deontay Wilder, of course, Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, who have proven to be very good and exciting you know, in their own right for their own reasons, in their own way, in their own style of fighting. Those guys that Burt Coopers I was talking about of the world, and Ray Mercers and cats like that. I mean, I think you know, before these other guys came in, like the Wilders and the Furies I was talking about, I think they would have ran the show if there was not a Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, Mike Tyson.
Yes.
Let's think about Riddick Bowe and all those cats, man. Even Michael Moore. That division was fire.
Johnny Sig, can I create a scenario and send it to you right now, and take over your show? I'll go to my grave saying this, and I was a big Riddick Bowe guy until, unfortunately, you know, they say don't meet your heroes, right? I met my hero backstage, and he called me white boy 10 times and tried to make me pay him to interview him. It was sad, but it's usually sad at the end. But the point of me saying this is the one night theory. Riddick Bowe, the night he beat Holyfield in their first fight, which is a all freaking time classic. And we know he brought in Mackie Shilstone. We know for the first time in his rise, he's like, they were like, stop eating cakes in the middle of the night. Stop doing whatever. Just take it seriously. Figure out how great you can be. Unfortunately, as we know, he had some success after, but never could get back to that night. That version of him that night, I'm not going to be crazy enough to tell you he beats every heavyweight of all time, but I am crazy enough to tell you that he's in every single fight against any single heavyweight in the history of the world at 6'5", the ability to fight on the inside, quick hands, an incredible chin, knockout punching ability. I'm telling you, I don't even think he belongs in the Hall of Fame. That's a controversial topic that I could debate one day. But that night, that version of him, the best night of his life, man, that was the real deal, as Evander would say right there. Right?
There's so many directions I could go with this, brother. Is that, you know, first of all, that's the fight that really got me into boxing. Like my whole thing into boxing was through my father, watching Tyson fights, hanging out. And then I watched Holyfield Bowe 1, saw round 10, saw everything I needed to know about life. I said, I don't even know how old I was. I said, this is a metaphor for life. I'm like, this man is probably going to lose the fight. He's getting beat, but he keeps getting up. He keeps trying. And my favorite fighter to this day, and a great guy, had the privilege to meet Evander a couple times and even interview him. He's a great guy. But aside from that, super inspirational moving forward. And I looked at the whole guy, the whole man, and Riddick Bowe.
You want beautiful guys in the end. Really, yeah.
You gotta have beautiful.
Yeah.
So I mean, so the thing is with Riddick is that if you look at what he did against Galata, that was two insane fights. You know, and he was the first, in my opinion, Bowe was the first big heavyweight of the new era, if you will, the beginning of the new era, to actually have, like you said, speed, agility, craft, you know, discipline.
In fighting. No one can fight on the inside anymore since then. He's maybe the last guy that could, you know?
Exactly. You know, and so like when he fought Galata and I saw Galata whooping on him, I was like, wow, this is nuts. And then the whole, you know, riot happened, and Lampley and Foreman and that was HBO.
Rafe loves. You got to bring up the Lou Duva story to Rafe. Him and his dad love.
Yeah, he's
Lou
coming
Duva,
on later. I got him coming on around 1:00 today, Pacific time, and I can't wait to have him on as well. And it's amazing to have you on. But then, you know, the second fight with Galata was even crazier.
It's a war too, that fight. Because remember, Bowe got trimmed down in shape. He almost got in like too good a shape for that fight.
I think that's what it was, because when you saw when he went down, when he got hit by Galata the first time, it was like a delayed reaction where he was like, nah, it's not too bad. Nah, it pretty much sucked. And then he just goes down, you know. What an amazing error, you know. I got to ask you this, too. We talked about your origins and how you got started in boxing. What got you into journalism? Is it the passion that you had for the sport that made you want to come over and write and do interviews?
Yeah. Ultimately, it was. I think I remember like having like a elementary school assignment where we had to like write something on something, and I wrote something on Hank Aaron, and I was a big baseball fan, and I remember that was the first time I got like really praised for something, and I think it sparked some interest in me that like, okay, I love sports. They tell me I can write about it, so that's probably what I'll do. So most of my youth, I was, you know, always considering that, and I started writing for the local newspaper in high school and got some cool opportunities there that led to a career in it. But, you know, I'm not thinking I'm covering high school football in like, you know, Factory Town, Connecticut. I'm not thinking I'm going to end up being the national, you know, boxing writer. I think it's really the passion that got me there. And there were, you know, there's levels to career growth. And I'd love to be able to tell you that where I am now was this calculated 15-year plan, dude. Like, I mean, 5 years ago, I wouldn't even believe I'm here right now. And I like that that's the case, because it's you enjoy it more when you get here, but also it's all been by passion. When I was covering local sports, working odd jobs, working in a factory when I'm 26, 27, and then get a chance at ESPN. And I'm like, okay, I made it. I can retire. I don't care if I'm working third shift cutting NHL highlights, which I virtually was for a while. I can do it. And, through some long years of low pay and horrible hours at ESPN, you sort of realize like boxing's my thing. So why can't I go after it? And it was many, many, many years of doing stuff for free, no pay, doing stuff that people in the company didn't even literally know you were doing. I remember I had this online video show that nobody even knew was out there and published. And when the boss found out, he shut it down. He's like, nobody gave you the green light to do it. Like, I'm telling you, like, I came up through ESPN, which is like coming up with the Yankees, but it was literally like they got a farm team over across the border in Mexico that has no TV rights. Like nobody knew who I was, and I'm just putting away. And through that whole journey, it became somewhat possible that, maybe I could spin this into a career. I'll probably have to be an editor for most of it, but I could maybe get a chance to fly to some fights or maybe get a chance to write some features. And even when that started happening, you still don't realize like I might be able to make this happen. And the reason is because look, like boxing is a niche sport. It's hard. I remember, I had I've had very turning point moments in my career where people told me truth. And when people tell you their truth for your life, it can do two different things. It can crush your dreams and that's a turning point for you, or it can enlighten you, can do a lot of things. And I had a specific boss go like, all right, you've been with me 8 years, whatever. What do you want to do with your career? I can help you get there in this company. I got connections. I'm like, I think I really want to write about boxing. I remember specifically having this conversation. It was like 2010. And he was like, all right, tell me this. How many people in this country right now get paid to cover boxing full time for a living? Don't have to cover any other sports, get to cover boxing. And I was like, Raphael, Ioli, and I think Mannix does half the time, or I think George Willis does half the time or something like, and he's like, so 2.5, right? He goes, if you told me you want to be an NFL writer, I could use my connections and maybe get you close to something. He goes, you picked a dead sport, blah, blah, blah. And, and that could have ended me. And there's been many other times where I've had similar things. I'm lucky that it didn't. And it's not, Johnny, because I got this great story to tell you about how I'm the strongest, most, uplifting, believed man in the world. I just really love this crap and I didn't give up. And that's, and that's where I am today. So along the way, I was a writer, I was an editor, I was a few different things. And I just never stopped trying. And that's really the story of my career to this point. And I'm so happy that I did. And like I said, I'm so happy that people actually pay me to drink beer on a webcam and crack boxing jokes. Like it's ridiculous, right?
We're going to drink a beer together in a moment, even though it's a little early for me. I'll crack one open in a few minutes. But let me tell you something, BC, is that, that everything you said right there, a total pat on the back to you, because you have the most fun fans that followed State of Combat, Inside the Ropes back in the day. And these people I mess with on Twitter, on social media all the time. We hang out at the hot dog cart all the time.
I see what you're doing over there by the hot dog cart. Yeah.
We're at the hot dog cart all the time. And these guys are amazing. And there's a reason for that, because the energy, the positivity, the knowledge, and the fun. You guys are funny, man. Like, you guys crack me up. I remember the first time I heard you and Rafe, go at it. And I discovered you guys. I was starting to get back in the podcast game, and I was just doing some research, seeing how people do things. And I'm like, these guys are amazing. And I think this was about a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago. I was working on a farm growing marijuana.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. The Johnny Sig backstory. I love it.
Yeah. I was growing marijuana for CBD, and whatever they did with the other stuff with the THC, that's up to them. That's on them. But I was growing some pot, listening to reggae, going there in the morning very early, out here in the desert. Believe it or not, you can actually grow things in the desert. It works. And so
that sounds like a good vibes lifestyle out there, right?
Oh man, I missed it. They moved to Reno. I'm in Vegas. I'm 15 minutes away from the Strip. They moved to Reno. I was so disappointed because I loved that job. That was like the best job. You go there, you could blaze a little bit, have a good time, and then have a couple beers. Like you go to work and they got a trailer all set up with like Coors Lights. Actually, the banquets that Johnny Lawrence drinks from Cobra Kai.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Oh
it's good
yeah.
stuff. Good stuff.
The
It's like
best
10.
freaking show. The best.
Oh,
That show
I
has
want
no. That show has no right being that good. Like, are you kidding me? That show has
all right.
no like. That thing could be an absolute shit stain to television. We'd still watch for nostalgic reasons. Turns out it's friggin' amazing. You know.
Okay, we're gonna go there. Never mind the Pac Rowan story. I'll save it for another time. BC Cobra Kai. Holy shit!
I got my kids, my 12-year-old twins into it like you would not believe. Like they are on YouTube every day looking for spoiler theory videos. I'm like, you really want to know? They're like, yep, we need to know what happens right now in season 3. I need to know. Dude, if they bring back, well, first of all, if they bring back Karate's bad boy, Mike Barnes, I'd go nuts. But if they bring back Terry Silver, dude, which, you know, I mean, if I watch these theory videos, if this is, you know, if they connect the dots in such brilliant fashion, they use the cameos of the old school people. It's almost so good. I'm trying to get my wife to watch it, and she hates like violence. She hates guy type shows. And I'm like, no, if you actually committed to this, it's funny. There's character development. I mean, it's the best show in the world.
It's
it really
amazing.
is.
The things that, you know, Johnny Lawrence says, and I hope, because I know we get watered down nowadays, we live in a different world. I just really hope they keep the integrity of the first 2 seasons. Johnny Lawrence, you know, how hysterical. It's got all the 80s vibes. I'm going to go there in a moment about 80s martial arts and 90s martial arts movies. When I saw Cobra Kai for the first time, it had me at hello. Like, first of all, 80s rock and roll music, you know, Johnny Lawrence driving like the Thunderbird or whatever he's driving, Camaro. And I'm like, dude, this is fantastic. And then next thing you know, I go to episodes. I go through all of them. I eat them up. And this goes back a couple of years. I was there from day one, BC. I was there from day one. It had me at hello. Like I said, season 2 comes out. And it's about, I think, a year and a half ago. And I was telling my girl, I'm like, I'll be in bed soon. You know, Cobra Kai just got released. And she's like, they're putting all of them out tonight? I'm like, yeah. She's like, you're not coming to bed tonight. I'm like, probably not.
Calling sick tomorrow, Johnny, please. Yeah.
I watched 5 hours of Cobra Kai. And by the time, spoiler alert, guys, you know, if you haven't seen it now, that's your bad.
It's on you, yeah.
But yeah, exactly. When Miguel gets kicked off the stairs, I was like,
yes.
And mind you, I'm blasted out of my mind when I'm watching it. And so I couldn't take it. I had to hit pause. And I go in the bedroom. I'm like, babe, because she watches it, but she's not like into it. I'm like, babe, you got to wake up right now. You got to wake up. She's like, what's the problem? I'm like, dude, Miguel might be dead. They might have killed Miguel. She's like, are you fucking serious? Can we just
talk about the gamble of that show to have a like 20-minute fight to close the final episode? They didn't know if they're coming back for season 3, right? They didn't know, like, there was a good chance that extended 20-minute brutal like school-wide brawl could have just not worked. It could have been like, oh, that's gratuitous. It's too much. It's like, that's a tightrope walk to have such great storytelling and then just go, we're going full on 80s in your face with the most over-the-top, ridiculous, yet awesome brawl that ends with like, is he going to walk? Is he going to live? Like you, I was like, I don't even know if I can show this to my kids. Like, it was that. Affected, you know?
Yeah. I had to wake my girlfriend. I'm like, babe, Miguel, I don't know if he's ever going to walk again. I don't know if he's dead. She's like, what the fuck are you doing, John? I'm like, Cobra Kai. She's like, just go away. Go to bed. You know, I'm sleeping. But so I don't know if you know this little fun factoid. Simon Rhee, who is Philip Rhee's brother from The Best of the Best, part 1 and 2, played Daehan. He does the fight choreography for Cobra Kai.
That makes a lot of sense because it's legit. And dude, how about the Kreese basically playing like the Darth Vader Palpatine role here and like resurfacing with, I mean, like, dude, it could go so many ways in season 3, and I can't wait.
We need Terry Silver back. We
do. And the constant, the real brilliance of the show is the fact that they took the Johnny and Daniel character and it kind of inverted them, right? And Johnny was the career heel, yet you then started to feel for him. So it was like pity, and then pity turned into, he's actually a pretty good dude, right? He's just rough on the edges, he just actually turned his life around, and it's actually Daniel who's an egotistical, you know, corner cutting, like jerk that you're cheering against. But then at the same time, that brilliant episode where they went on that accidental double date in the Mexican restaurant, and you're like, you're cheering for them just to be besties for 5 minutes, right? And it's awesome. And then it falls apart. And it's awesome. And then it falls apart. And then you got the family connections coming in from the outside. And now as we enter season 3, spoiler alert, it looks like they might team up. It's to beat their common enemy. It's wild, dude.
I
And it
watch
makes
all
you
the-
go back and rewatch the first three, and I say three, not four, because I'm not sure the fourth one ever happened. But the first three, you go back and watch them. And it didn't exist. It didn't exist. It's so perfectly connected that I'm now seeing things in the first three for the first time that I didn't see before, because they brought it to life. And I mean,
it's absolute brilliance. Johnny Lawrence is hysterical. He's amazing. Even Daniel LaRusso, Ralph Macchio's acting is tremendous. It's just the right amount of cheese and 80s nostalgia and just like, soap opera-ish fun, but it still gives you like content. It still gives you like, oh, this is good storytelling.
It's still soap opera. It's basically still a professional soap opera, and it's badass.
That's exactly what it is.
It's edgy and it's got adult humor. And yeah, Johnny, like Billy Zabka, should not be that good of an actor at this point after really doing not much since his run as
fantastic
as a top flight 80s bad boy. Yeah.
He's fantastic. All right, so let's keep going with the martial arts movies or films, TV shows. All right, so I'm going to break down a list of my favorites, brother. All right, Van Damme, I'm a big fan. Bloodsport, Lionheart, Kickboxer, Double Impact. Never in my life would I ever wear black or silk underwear. All right, Jean-Claude Van Damme is a bad dude. I mean, some great movies. Steven Seagal.
Rafe loves JCVD. He's always been on the outside looking in on my triad of awesomeness, which extends a little bit beyond martial arts, and it's playing the favorites. It's Stallone, Schwarzenegger, and Seagal. I always felt like JCVD for me was like, I could F around with him a little, but I wouldn't commit. Like Rafe, that's Rafe's guy, right? Like I even like the hockey one, Sudden Death. It was pretty good, although it's not like traditional martial arts. But I like Double Impact. I can get down with him, but I do look at him the same way most people look at Seagal, which is as like a caricature, right? Where I look at Seagal as like, is my guy, that's who I aspire to be in life. You know what I'm saying? Where most people look at him as a clown, I kind of look at JCVD as a little bit of a polished clown. And I know we shouldn't hate on each other's heroes in this game, right? I like Billy Blanks when he plays the damn janitor in all those cheesy high school movies, but whatever.
Well, here's what's up. I could agree with you on this. Steven Seagal is my favorite of that era. When I was a kid, when a Steven Seagal movie came out, man, I was at the theaters. I remember I was heartbroken in the one that Steven Seagal died. That movie with Kurt Russell, within
Executive Decision.
Yes. Executive Decision. I was like,
it was a bait and switch. They got us. Yeah,
they got me. But at that point in time, he had already done Mark for Death, which I know is your favorite. I have a flip side. Out for Justice is mine. Anyone know why? Richie did Bobby Lupo. That's like one of the best parts of the movie.
Who's the boxer? What, you boxer? You think you're a boxer? Well, yeah.
Whose hot dog is this? Under Siege 1 and 2. I mean, 2 was a sleeper.
2 is underrated as hell, dude. And that's the last. I don't know if you ever read in 2014 for Grantland, when Rafe was an editor there, him and I co-authored a celebration of Seagal's career. And looking back, what I did to prepare for that was I had only watched his movie run, meaning his theatrical run from Above the Law through Under Siege 2, because at that point he went direct to video. Now he did obviously resurface a bunch of times for many comebacks, but I had really never seen the second half of his career, save for seeing Exit Wounds in the theater. And I went back and watched every single movie in a row. And I will say this, man, those first, it's 6. Is it 6 or 8? So it's the first 4, which are
Above the Law, Hard to Kill, Mark for Death, Out for Justice.
Yeah, and then it's the ridiculous On Deadly Ground. The Under Siege big, major one.
Those are 2 good ones right there.
And then Under Siege 2. So it's maybe really those 7. I might be missing an 8th in there. I can't remember. So basically that's the prime. After that, he fell off the side of a cliff and just started making the same movie over and over again, direct to video. But people don't realize how good Under Siege 2 actually is. It's
amazing. It's got a great plot. The actor that's, the villain is tremendous.
Eric Bogosian. Which way? Wait, the computer villain or the
yes, the computer guy, the brains, the whole.
The computer guy is in have you seen one of the best movies ever, Uncut Gems?
No, what is this?
The Adam Sandler movie that came out a year
No,
ago?
I haven't seen that.
Okay, well, dude, stop what you're doing because I'm about to ruin you going to Netflix and getting lit up and watching this movie. Please watch that movie. Okay,
Okay,
it'll
I'll take
change
that
your life.
recommendation.
Safdie brothers, they will change your life. Anyway, Eric Bogosian, the computer bad guy, resurfaces as a bad guy in that movie. Spoiler alert, check it out.
No shit.
But yeah, the villains in Under Siege 2, you got a young Morris Chestnut, you got a young Catherine Hegel in that movie. It's pretty badass. Yeah,
it's a badass movie, a lot of fun. Notable mentions. I mean, we were talking about Cobra Kai, and they threw it back. This is what we need in cinema nowadays. We need people to throw it back to yesteryear, the 80s and 90s martial arts movies, whether you prefer Seagal, Van Damme, whoever. Okay, now my favorite martial arts movie of all time, Best of the Best Part 2. I'm going to talk about this for many reasons. Brackus, the Coliseum, it was the UFC before the UFC even happened, but they fought to the death and the stakes were high. We went from the Olympics in part 1, and then we got in part 2, death matches.
which follows Karate Kid 1 and 2, right? We went from tournament Daniel-san to, this for real. Yeah.
That's why I tied them together. I could not have said that better. So you had death matches in part 2. Chris Penn dies. Travis Brinkley, the character. Other notable mentions. Blood Fist, Don the Dragon Wilson. I know Rafe's gonna want to talk about that later.
These are Rafe's. Yeah, this is his wheelhouse. I of course dabble in them. See, I was like, I love the martial arts ones, I love the ridiculous ones, but I was definitely more of the little bit more action than straight martial arts. Like,
so you like all the Bronsons.
Well, Lethal Weapon was a little bit too commercial, although I watched them and liked them. I'm talking about all the Charles Bronson ones. I'm talking about Action Jackson with which is incredibly an underrated action movie. Hugely and underrated. What's that one with Chuck Norris? Something USA. It's like Chuck Norris trying to be Schwarzenegger. Whatever the one where the guy's doing cocaine and the other guy smashes his head down and that thing goes up his brain and then he throws him out the window. There's some vicious. All I know is I grew up in let me ask you this. I grew up in Connecticut. You grew up in Jersey. Do you remember WPIX, Channel 11B?
Absolutely.
You know what I'm talking about.
Channel 11.
I used to call it the Bronson Channel, dude. You turn on PIX on a Saturday afternoon, you're getting some Charles Bronson thing where he's killing 50 people. And
you're going to learn today. You're going to learn today. You're going to get a life lesson with that right there. Speaking of WPIX, I mean, obviously they played the Yankees forever. Phil Rizzuto was, I don't know who your baseball team is, BC.
I was a Mets guy, but I watched everything. But, yeah.
Okay. So other sports of interest, we all know you love UFC, boxing, WWE, all that kind of good stuff. And I love everything except I cannot get into soccer. I've been trying recently to golf. I'm terrible. I'm terrible at golf. I went playing tennis the other day.
Yeah, that ended badly. I saw the pics. Yeah.
Oh, dude, I got my ass whooped. My girl kicked my ass. Like, I started stepping up. I was like talking shit. I had a couple drinks in me, and she was just lighting them up on me. I'm running around. I'm 42 years old. So
we're the same age. Hey, look at this. We're the same age.
Over here. Are they clean, BC? You got them clean?
Are we talking about class of 96 here? What are we talking about? 78? What are we talking about?
We're talking about clean hands over here.
Yeah, I watched these mother. All
right, you got the Johnny Sig seal of approval on the hands. But other sports of interest, what do you like, dude? I'm not as hardcore now, but I was the biggest NBA fan of all friggin' time. Like that's actually the years that I got out of being a boxing hardcore. I got into NBA like on an upset, and I still am. This is what I say to people today, because people are like, "Hey man, did you see that awesome Thursday night football game?" I'm like, "Nope." They're like, "Did you see the debut of that unbelievable Netflix series that everybody's talking about?" I go, "Nope." And they're like, "What's wrong with you?" I go, "Here's what's wrong. We got too many options, okay? I cannot watch anything on television short of live combat sports where I am not within 5 minutes turning back to YouTube, putting on 90s NBA playoff randomly and just watching what I want to in the moment." And I think the problem is because there's the beginning and there's the before and after in my life. People think it's, my kids always say, "Dad, you were around before cell phones and the internet. You were an adult before the cell phones and the internet took over your life." And I'm like, that's true. And you're right. But dig even deeper. YouTube was actually the turning point. Pre-YouTube, I spent all of my money acquiring
boxing VHS tapes of the bud, and old NBA playoff games, all these things that you couldn't access unless you knew somebody who'd been taping for years, right? And now it's anything in the world, as we already know, drop of a hat. You get into a new band, here's their full album itinerary and every live show they've ever done on camera.
Sure.
So even to this day, man, it's killed any. If you leave me alone with the TV, I'm gonna end up watching the first round of the '94 NBA playoffs. It just happens that way, all right? Or I'm gonna be watching Nassim Hamed old fights or something. You know, I can't. It is what it is, Johnny. All right.
No, I get it, dude. I mean, the whole thing is nowadays, you know, looking back at where I got my start in boxing real quick, my trainer back in the day when I was an amateur fighter, actually sold cassette tapes like you were talking about fights from back in the day before YouTube happened. This goes back to the early 90s, guys. And he would send me, you know, give me fights rather at the training camps that I was at and the gyms and whatnot. And there's times where things would be out of sequence. So I'd watch like Roberto Duran's career, and I had watched a whole lot of Roberto Duran. And then next thing I know, he's fighting Tommy Hearns. I'm like, I have no idea the result of this. There's no internet. There's nothing. So I popped this bad boy in. I was like, holy shit. What did Tommy Hearns just do to Roberto Duran? I'm like, Roberto's going to kick his ass. I mean, Tommy's good from what I've seen from all the fights, because I've watched so many. And I called him up. I'm like, I cannot believe that Tommy Hearns. It's like it just happened. In other words.
Dude, so when I started putting on gloves and messing around, and I went nuts, I was spending hundreds of dollars a month. I had this dude in California, this Mexican guy would just send me, you know, and he was making so much money off me. And this was right before YouTube kind of had everything on it, right? Dude, I ordered the entire Tino Trinidad collection, the entire Roy Jones collection, the entire De La Hoya collection, the entire Hamed. I was just like acquiring, and I was like you. I was going through some of these. And he was like, dude, are you into the featherweights? And I'm like, no, what are you talking about? He goes, you don't watch Barrera, Morales, Marquez, and Pacquiao? I was like, no, not really. He's like, here's what you're going to buy next month. And like you, I was watching these. And I remember Pacquiao Morales had just happened, and I hadn't seen it, and I really hadn't saw who won. And I was watching it 2 months later, like it was live, emailing this guy going, oh my God, the 12th round. Why did he switch southpaw? Why would he do that? Because he loves us. Because he's my campeon. That's why Eric Morales would do it. Because he's got huevos, bro. Okay. At the end of the day, that's why he did that.
That 7th round, I remember I was watching that fight with my father, and I watched many fights with my father, and my best friend in life when he was around, you know, great musician, all that good stuff, got me into boxing, and I, you know, I'm forever thankful for that. But I'm watching Barrera Morales, and I remember this very vividly, like the 5th, the 7th, the 11th, the 12th, the entire fight. I'm like, what the hell is happening? These are small men that nobody really knew at the time. I'm not going to pretend that I knew who they were at the time.
Just like our Top Ranks Evan Korn. He's a little guy.
Boxing, you know? After dark. Like, you know, whatever. It sounds good. Let's put it on. And we're like, this is one of the greatest fights ever. I mean, you know, BC, we talked about this on your show when I was on as a guest with Rafe and stuff. I mean, aside from that, I'm going to say Castillo Corrales, and to be at Gotti Ward, the first one and the third one, unbelievable.
Yes. Yes.
And what's weird about that fight is that Gotti Ward won. It was amazing and electrifying, but it's almost like you didn't know what to do with it. It was just so much.
Yes.
Like you took it in and you didn't know what to do with it. Like this is what the hell just happened.
Here's why this is so great. This conversation, this sport, boxing friends, I've been blessed to be at almost anything that mattered the last 5, 6, 7 years, right? Yeah, absolutely. For all the boxing fights I've been to, Johnny, like I haven't been to a ton of like all-time great all-action barn burners. I've been to like every Mayweather pay-per-view and, you know, like whatever. I mean, I was at both Golovkin, Triple G's, they're amazing, you know, and Canelo, they're amazing. But when my favorite thing to do in this game, having friends like you, Eric Raskin, Karen Mulvaney, Rafe, is to crack a beer while we're at a fight or wherever, or if we're doing it over Zoom or whatever, and doing exactly what we did on my podcast, being like, dude, you were at Gotti Ward 1. Let me smell your fingers. Like, take me there. I have a jealousy.
They're clean, BC. They're clean.
Oh, that's true. They're good. I have a jealousy for those who were at Gotti Ward 1, who were at Pacquiao Marquez 4. That is like, it's unquenchable. It's unsatiable. Like everything I get to do in my life now. I'm like friends with certain fighters. Like it's a dream, yet I would trade that all in to like have, experience that again. And that's why I love this game. I was at Ortiz Berto 1, and that was the second fight I ever covered.
That's a great fight. That's a great fight.
That was that was an introduction to the fire, right? When Stewart yelled, "Oh my God, look at this!" That was happening inside my body, ringside. So I've had a few, and it's funny how much we love this game. I cover a lot of MMA as well. And do you remember 2019 UFC 236 in Atlanta, Israel Adesanya versus Kelvin Gastelum? Remember that 5-round interim middleweight title bout?
Yes, absolutely.
A freaking war. Randomly enough, I was wearing this ridiculous orange shirt in the front row covering that fight. And when I went to the closet to get changed before this interview and took my pajamas off, I was like, oh, let me grab that. That's the Adesanya shirt. This is the Adesanya. It just is, because I love that I was there and I got to ingest that. And I love this game. I love what these crazy warriors are willing to do for us.
It's
Johnny,
incredible and inspiring.
And it's not that Johnny, tell me if I'm wrong. It's not that we're bloodlusters. It's not that here's my thing with this. It's that part of it is deep respect / they have the kind of balls that I don't think I can conjure up for this type of thing. So I have that respect, but I think it's life. What they are doing inside the ring is what I'm trying to do in my own life, right? It's the most inspiring thing ever when somebody has no freaking business getting up from that body shot, right? And yet Darren Barker or Arturo Gatti or Marcos Maidana, round 1 against Amir Khan, we could forget that ever happened, gets up with that's life. That is life right there. That is when you lost your job a few years ago, or your girlfriend left you, or your dad died. Like, that is it. That's why we love this game.
It's a metaphor for life. Like I was telling you about before with the Holyfield and Bo first fight, round 10. I knew that at an early age. I said, this man keeps coming. And I use that philosophy my entire life. Like, you gotta keep on going. You gotta keep on trucking.
Yeah, you gotta keep coming. That's Johnny's history with women. That's right there.
That's it. Yeah, I was gonna go there in a moment. But what is Eric Raskin and Karen Mulvaney been talking about? The black ant? You ever fuck around with that? Do you know what that is?
Oh, well, yeah, that's the thing.
That's a gas station. You know about gas station food, but do you know about gas station dick pills?
No more dick pills, John Jones. No, I don't go in that UFC, that USAF Mac territory. No, I don't go there.
You can pop for PEDs. I'm pretty sure on those things.
Yeah.
That's not my cup of tea. You gotta be careful. I threw one down about, I don't know. It's funny when they said it, black ant. I'm like, oh, I know about that. I did one of those back in the day, and then I did one recently. It was like an anniversary. I want to have a good showing, so I'm like, I'm gonna come correct tonight. And dude, I popped one of these things, and I felt like I was on acid. I saw trails. And
are you serious? Dude, it's like an infomercial right now for this. We've been doing dick pills since the beginning, brother.
Yeah, I'm OG dick pill.
Johnny, look, can I hijack your show? I am very intrigued by the music side of your life, and I know your background as like an instructor and a studio owner and all that, and I respect that. But when you play, either for fun or if you still take gigs, what is your acts of choice? What's your baby?
I love drums. I got started on drums by way of my father, who was a great guitar player. He started me on guitar, long story short. I liked the guitar, but I was always more of a very energetic personality, which, caters to the drums.
Okay, so the drum is your heart, but you can play the guitar, is what you're saying.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So what's your pick acts of pick? What do you go with?
What's my go-to guitar? A Gibson Les Paul is my favorite. I also like jazz boxes by Ibanez, which is yeah.
You can play metal on those too, right?
Yeah, you can. You can shred on that thing. You can shred on that thing. As far as music interest, I love everything from Led Zeppelin to Rush to reggae to funk to jazz to hip hop. I listen to everything, even country music nowadays. My girl got me on country music, and I'm like,
see, I like real country, but don't be talking about this artificial country. You into that? Like
no artificial country. I like the country that talks about paying bills, right? Getting laid, getting drunk. blue collar shit. That's
Yeah.
why I related to it.
Not paying your taxes, hitting women, the old school, the Dickie Betts way of life. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. No, just kidding on that. So
Jesus.
so look, let's stay here for 1 second.
Yes.
I am a music fan snob, like old school, like had the 100 disc CD changer in my first apartment, had like programmed like playlist. I mean, like, dude, I lived this game as a fan, not a player. I'd noodle, but I'm horrible, but as a fan, and I would be a snob about it. So, if you like this, but you don't like this, you're not cool, whatever. And one of the things my friend group and we avoided forever was prog rock, right? It was like, we're Zeppelin and Stones guys. We ain't gonna wear a cape on stage and hang out with them Rush boys. But I'll tell you this, okay? One of the things that has changed my life during this quarantine, and to be honest, kind of helped me out of a quarantine depression, as we're all battling something during this hard year right now, was I got into vinyl, and I got into it head over heels, and I scored the vinyl pickup of a lifetime 2 months ago when a lady was moving from Connecticut to Florida, and she put 136 like really great condition 70s record collection on sale for $70. And you're just like, yep, where am I picking this up?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you want me to pay in blood, or do you want me to pay in, what are we doing here? So when I got there, she's like, I think these might be worth a lot more. And I was just like, oh, I don't know. I just got a
too bad, lady. I'm out.
But you know what she has given me is, an access to things that I just hadn't been in before. I'm into now art rock. I'm into jazz rock. I'm into, Steely Dan, Jeff Beck, artists that I peripherally, but never really put the fist in, right? I circled the rim a little bit. And this has now got
the entire fist. Yeah.
Not the, no. This has now got me into prog, and I was nervous to let this be known publicly. Okay. And I have not yet gone what I call like prog extreme, like the guys who live the prog. Like, I'm not a Russian yes guy yet. And I didn't even realize Pink Floyd was prog. I didn't even realize Pink Floyd is the greatest prog band of all time. I thought they were more art rock, but I guess it makes sense. But right now, I am so freaking into Genesis, to Rick Wakeman solo stuff. The orchestral giant organ prog stuff. I am so into Kansas's Leftoverture, which has an incredible second side prog suite on it. Even things like Peter Gabriel's early solo stuff. Even the great Elton John's got some prog moments. Every time I open up this record, I pull out another prog. I go, let me throw it out. Let's see what happens. Johnny, they were onto something, but these nerds in the 70s. I mean,
I got to tell you what, man. Now. I am a prog rock nerd. I mean, my band, not to plug my band, we're a prog rock band. We're influenced by
I did not know. What's it called? What's your band called? The prog rock? Hereafter.
Yeah. So we got a couple albums out. We had Bobby Kimball from Toto on one of our tracks recently, who's a good friend of mine. And the thing is, I was going to go there, is that if you look at Toto, Rush, Led Zeppelin, The Doors, who I believe are the first, the origin of prog rock.
That's interesting.
Think about it. Eclectic styles. They had beats like bossa novas. If you guys don't know what that is, it's a Latin beat. They did things that were very eclectic, rumbas, and did very experimental music. Jimi Hendrix obviously was one of them, Jethro Tull. So I'll take you through music history real quick. Bands like you were mentioning, Genesis, yes, those are the bands. Rush, oh my God. When I heard Rush for the first time, I'll never forget it. I had Saturday school because I was doing some stupid shit, smoking cigarettes in the bathroom, whatever I was doing. And so I got Saturday school, and I came home from Saturday school, and I want to take a nap, and I could not sleep. And my sister was dating someone at the time that loved Rush. And then I saw like this random, I was listening to Motley Crue. I was tired of it. I was listening to Iron Maiden, which I love, but I was tired of it. I went through those albums so many times. And then I put on A Show of Hands by Rush, a live record. By the time I got to the 5th track, I was floored. I was like, oh my God, what is happening here?
So you're saying I got to jump in. I got to go for it. If I'm gonna act like I know prog, I got to go for it.
BC, it got in my ear hole, bro. It got in my ear hole the biggest way.
Got a little on you there.
So the next thing I know, I tell my dad I want a set of drums, and then I go.
Oh, so that legitimately got you into playing because you love the damn prog. Oh, so we are. So okay then, bro. I'm into Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I'm into, dude, and even now
King
I'm
Crimson.
here.
You mess with King Crimson?
Ooh, I didn't mess with them yet. No.
Oh, be careful.
So I even not so first of all, to find out that Pink Floyd actually is and go, oh yeah, like my favorite Pink Floyd album, Wish You Were Here, is 100% prog. But even Fish, I'm a big jam band guy, so I'm Fish, Grateful Dead. There's a lot of prog influence in Fish as well. It's all coming together for me now, Johnny. So I think it's time. I guess I got to get into
You're a Deadhead, right?
Oh, big
Like,
time, yeah.
yeah, the Dead's awesome, dude.
So I got to get
drumming.
into Yes and Rush. That's the end of this conversation. I got to get into Yes and
Rush, and also Dream Theater.
Oh, okay.
Check Dream Theater out, dude. Scenes from a Memory and Queen. I don't know if you get down with Queen.
I've got A Night at the Opera and I've got the Jazz record, and those two are prog up the kazoo. It's fantastic.
Amazing. All right, so I got one more question for you, BCI. Thank you for your time, and it's amazing having you on. What a great time. How did you meet Rafe?
Great question. So I was at that point, this is 2014. I was a boxing and MMA backup editor at ESPN, and I was contributing stories and hosting a web show about boxing, but not getting paid, just doing it because I love it. Grantland had started for ESPN, and Rafe was an editor there, and he sort of evolved into being their boxing guy because nobody else wanted to do it. And come to find out, he's incredible as a writer. He's my favorite boxing writer. I'm a big Eric Raskin guy. I always loved him as well. But Rafe has a way. He has a way of making this sport feel so much bigger than it is. It's so much better through his unique style, which is fun and smart and educated. Turns out we were at fights together, covering them, him for Grantland, me for ESPN, but not talking to each other or knowing each other. I thought the Grantland guys were like these snooty hipsters, and I'm sure he thought I was some guy from a factory town who can, and he's right. But we connected because he wrote a piece with Bill Simmons and a couple other guys about the movie Above the Rim and the things they talked about in reliving and loving that ridiculously great basketball movie where they dunk on 8-foot hoops and Leon shows up in a pair of corduroys and is taking Tupac to the hole and all that. I emailed him and I'm like, dude, like, you're my favorite boxing writer. Like, this is amazing stuff. And he's just like, yo, dude, I'm a big fan of your work. And then it was like Mayweather, Maidana, I think 2. And then we were like, you're going to be in Vegas. Let's hang out. And we just hit it off. We consummated, we made this brotherhood work. And I've never looked back. The guy's an absolute brother to me in life and in box. And come to find out a couple months later, about 6-9 months later, the build for Mayweather Pacquiao starts. And he was talking to Bill Simmons, his boss, and pitched him on the idea of a boxing podcast. And right around that time, I was trying to get a boxing podcast off the ground at ESPN. Kieran Mulvaney had a solo one. I don't know if you remember, on there for a while. Him and I were going to try to do one together. ESPN.com goes, no, we don't need a boxing podcast. We don't even want one. We go, you have one. Kieran Mulvaney's on it. And they go, we got a boxing podcast? Shut that shit down. That's a true story. It's exactly what happened. So right at that time, Rafe asked Simmons, got the thumbs up, asked me to be the co-host. And we had something, Johnny, something that you and I feel right now as brothers in this game. I've been lucky to be paired with a lot of people in this game doing podcasts, quasi radio, web shows. When you get that chemistry, when you can feel it, you know it, you can taste it. I got it right now with Luke Thomas. Thankfully, we're doing the morning combat thing.
Yes, you do.
I had it with Peter Rosenberg when we did the ESPN Cheap Heat Wrestling podcast. When you got that thing, you think you can have that with everybody. You can't. It's special.
Now I'm fired up.
It's probably
I gotta put some water on my balls.
Is it like you when you're when you're on the drums and you got a bass player who just knows you? You just met him, but he knows your soul. You know what I'm saying? It just you're the rhythm.
I'll give you this. The most ridiculous moment in my life. I have Bobby Kimball from Toto who sang, I bless the rains down in Africa. If you guys don't know, I
got that record over here. Toto 4, right?
Toto 4, baby. So here's what's up. He comes in and does a track for me, and I'm going to actually do some more work with him coming up. But he sang, and it was so powerful. And I'm like literally like right next to him while he's doing it. He's singing this thing. I was like, what the fuck? Like, and the guy that was recording, he's like, we got to cut. I'm like, why you got to cut? He's like, he broke the monitor. Everything went off. Like, he's like, he sounds great, but his voice is just he's got to stay away from the mic. I'm like, no shit. So he was just putting the pitch thing like way beyond. He was clipping it, as they call it, which means it was too hot. you know? So I'm like, you got to stand 5 feet away from the mic, dude. And every time but then the further he stood away, the louder he would sing. So I'm like, no, it's not going to work. I'm like, we need more cowbell, baby. Like, he was great. And it sucks to tell someone that you love so much, like, you're doing a great job, but you're so loud and this guy doesn't know how to deal with you. And then I got reassured. So I also worked with another producer that just recorded with him recently, and I also recorded for them as well. So what happened was they told me, like, every time we're in the studio, that same thing happens. I'm like, okay, because I thought it was amateur hour for me. I'm running a production, I'm doing shit. I'm like, I'm learning on the job. Like, I don't know what the hell's going on. And someone's like clipping. I'm like, what the hell is clipping? What are we talking about over here now? Like, what the fuck is clipping over here? Clip your fingernails and wash the motherfuckers. Get out of my face. But BC, this was a great time, dude. I just want to ask you one more thing. So, family life, how is everyone at home?
Everyone's doing great. We're so blessed. Not only that my job's thriving during a pandemic, and I don't say that lightly. Brethren in the business have lost their job, and I feel bad for anybody fighting the good fight now. But my family, health-wise and emotionally, has thrived through the. You find out, you're not sure you know this, John, you find out how small your house is when you go through a global pandemic. You find out how strong your relationships actually are. And even though, I got great relationships, they're going to get tested when you're on top of each other's laps every single day and everyone's working and doing school but at the same time, it was me who was struggling through this, me who's like used to traveling, leaving, going, and I'm just stuck here. And they just adapt and survive. My lovely wife, Jen, my twin 12-year-old sons. We got a army of 3 cats, 2 dogs.
I was going to ask you about your animals. Yeah. You got a couple pets, right?
Oh yeah. But the best pets ever. We just got a new kitten. We got 3 cats, 2 dogs, and this tiny, it's wild. It's great. And, life couldn't be any better. It's great. It's great.
I feel the same.
We all been through it. So when you've been through it and then you get to a mountaintop period for a while, you savor the flavor.
That's it, man. I mean, same thing here. We get along at home. Luckily, I have a situation where I love my family very much. Yeah, things get a little crazy sometimes when you're home and, you're finding things to do, jockeying for positions, video games. I recommend video games, movies, television, lots of sex, lots of alcohol.
Is that with one person or 2? That's with
your choice. Just one. It's me and her. But I mean, these are things that will pacify, it will get you through, staying positive and just getting through this ridiculousness that we're going through. But
a lot of walks with the dogs, a lot of drives. I do a lot of drives to the country roads out here.
Absolutely. I got a Chihuahua that I love very much, Polly Peanuts.
Yes.
You guys have probably seen her before out there.
He's Italian, Polly Peanuts, right? Yeah.
She's Mexican. I got a sombrero and a poncho. I got a sombrero and a poncho for her. Recently.
Excellent.
I've become that guy, BC.
Well, next time that the world opens and I get to Vegas for a big fight, Johnny, I'm ringing you up. I'm calling you up. Okay. That's it.
I was going to end it with this, is that me, you, and Rafe and whoever, Eric Raskin, whoever's listening over here now, I want you to do this. I'm going to end with this. It's your boy, Johnny Boy, over here now. I got my boy, BC, over here. His motherfucking hands are clean. His mind is clean. Look at him. He over here now. You want to ever hang out with us in Vegas? You let us know if you're worthy of it, because you got to have your motherfucking hands clean. Ciao, baby. BC, this was awesome. Thank you.
Love it. Thank you, Johnny Boy.